The Dharma, incomparably profound and exquisite, is rarely met with even in hundreds of thousands of millions of kalpas. We now can see it, hear it, accept and hold it. May we realize the true mind of the Tathagata. May we open to our own true mind, which is the same mind as the mind of the Tathagata. I'd like to share with you today rather different subject, but nonetheless very relevant to Zen practice. It is from this book called No Word for Time, The Way of the Algonquin People. And it is by Evan T. Pritchard, who is part Algonquin. I think he might be all Algonquin. It's hard to know. I'm not sure. It's not really clear in his introduction, but let me share what he says about it. Very little recorded here on the Algonquins. This is a very thick book, is taken from other books. It is what I learned from listening to and observing the elders in day-to-day situations in the field, quote unquote. Yet, when I speak about the elders, I'm also speaking about my own grandfathers and grandmothers of the Mitra-roshi branch of the MicMac Nation. Their ways were handed down to me through the family, through dreams, and through my own blood. And those ways must have been little different from what I describe here. Though I may use the word they, I do not separate myself from the Algonquin people. I am they, as we all are they, with regard to all people, no matter what color, shape, size, sexual orientation, political views, we are all one. It's a very deep understanding to recognize that. And the deeper we go, the more we do recognize that. At the least, just physiologically, it's well known that we have what's called mirror neurons in our brain, which mirror the emotions and the feelings of everyone around us, and even some who are not so around us. There is often a sense of when someone is thinking of Mountain Gate, and interestingly enough, very soon after that recognition, I hear from that person. I'm not the only person that feels this kind of thing. All of us have that built-in wiring, and it's a sort of a overt expression of the reality that we are all flow. And as for things, we are concentrations of energy. And as such, communication naturally moves freely among concentrations of energy. But I'm getting astray here. In the MicMac language, there is no word for time. It's not the only language where there's no word for time. And when I was living in Burma and learned something of the Burmese language, there are no words to express past or future. There is only the moment as it is. And it is similar in the native language of the Algonquin peoples. There are expressions, but they're tied to events, specific events. For example, New Year is when the creek freezes over. It's known that winter starts earlier in the north than it does in the south, and so on and so forth. And let me share a little bit of this with you. Oops, not the right page. Where is the right page? Okay, here we go. No word for time. There is no word for time in the Algonquin, in the MicMac language, nor in most Algonquin tongues. You can say it. You can't say it, I should say. And I apologize for my awkward reading. I just can't see that well. You can ask "Don" or "When is it?" but your answer may be expressed in images, not numbers. There are words for day and night, for sunrise, sunset, for one lunar cycle and one yearly cycle, youth, adulthood, and old age, but no word for an absolute time which measures the universe from outside of it. Why am I bringing this up? Because this is a deep reality that through our Zen practice, we open to, and which also frees us. Time is relative. Dogen wrote that. Time being is time. This is the same as what they're saying in the MicMac language. And it's important for us to recognize this because what it expresses is living in the moment. And living in the moment is a significant aspect of deep Zen practice. The past is gone. The future has not yet arrived. There's the story of the monk who is traveling. And apparently in ancient China, there were little food stands along the roads, often run by very enlightened elderly women, actually. And there are a number of stories regarding these encounters with monks and these women. So this monk was traveling along and he had this pack on his back, and he stopped to buy what was called a mind refresher, which is also in Japanese called a monju, which refers to Manjusri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom. And it's a kind of, well, it's hard to tell what it is. It's a sweet. And so this man was going to have a nice snack. And the old lady says, "What do you got in your backpack?" And he says, "The Diamond Sutra, my commentaries on the Diamond Sutra." And so she says, "Oh, the Diamond Sutra. Tell me, the Diamond Sutra says there's no past mind, no future mind, no present mind. What mind are you choosing to refresh?" And it stumped him. He couldn't answer. Arouse the mind that abides nowhere. Arouse the mind that abides nowhere. That is the phrase that triggered profound awakening for the sixth patriarch to be. Abides nowhere. In what time? We get tied into time. And of course, in our modern society, there is a role for time. And there are meetings called. And if you want to be at that meeting, you have to be there at the appropriate time. There's a time to get up and be in the zendo. And when we are in a group, these kinds of things matter just in terms of coherence and flow and being able to move together and practice together without disruption and interruption, I should say. And so there is a role for time. We're not saying to abandon it, but there is also a role for being present with each moment simply as it is, without ideas about it. To simply be immersed in the essence of the moment is a profound way of being. This is why last night or the night before I spoke of, as I left the Zendo at the end of the evening sitting, the energy was so deep and so profound. And I said, sink into it. Sink into it. Experience it, be it. The way time is dealt with in Algonquin speech teaches us that time is relative and elusive in nature, just as Einstein proved and as quantum researchers are discovering. There is no concept of time outside its embodiment in the things of nature. I've heard MicMac people point to the sky and use the expression, where is it now? Meaning, what is the position of the sun? I've even agreed to an appointment to meet an elder when the sun sits, quote, there above the trees, close quote, but no mention of hours. The myth that some people are in Indian time is no myth. It's a flow. It's moving in concert with a sense of the rightness of the moment in which to unfold. And when we open deeply to that inner sense that is beyond words, we understand when and how to do things. It naturally comes up. And if it doesn't come up, it means the time is simply not right for it to arise. Tune in. See it for yourself. Time is relevant, relative, not so relevant, actually. Time is relative. And we had a funny experience here in this Zendo. One Rohatsu evening, we're all doing kinhin, and I suddenly saw the clock jump 12 minutes. And the other people in the Zendo also saw it jump 12 minutes. It's simply, the clock decided it was a different time. There was no reason for this. And if you're attuned to being, you recognize that sometimes time seems to go very fast and sometimes it seems to go very slow. When people are in car accidents or other kinds of emergencies, often time goes extremely slowly. And that is because if you're involved in this, you're so fully present that you're at one with the moment as it is. And so being so fully present, there's no standing outside of it and watching it happen. It's an experience. And often this is the reason why when people witness an accident, they can't speak to what happened in that moment, because it is an experience beyond words. And this is also behind the whole conundrum of confusion when there are witnesses to an accident and the person on this corner says, well, he ran a red light. And another person on the same corner says, no, she ran the red light. And they've investigated this scientifically, actually. The thing is, when we experience the moment, we have an experience of it, and that registers as an experience. When we try to translate it into words, we lose track of that experience. And so the words sort of come from what may or may not be an accurate depiction of what happened. To continue, we all come into the world in Indian time, and depart in the same way. It's just that some native people seem to be able to maintain that natural rhythm during the interceding period called life as well. I can't count the number of Algonquin people I've known who have never worn watches in their lives. This is no small point. Some try for a while and then throw the watch away or give it away, either in ceremony or unceremoniously. It has to do with dignity, perception, and many other less tangible factors such as energy, flows, and vibrations. Obviously, many Native people wear watches to work and have business meetings at 3 o'clock with their accountants and show up promptly on time. But there seems to be a profound difference to traditional Algonquin people between wearing a watch and not wearing a watch, which goes beyond the obvious symbolism. A watch reminds you of the demands of others. Perhaps it also clouds the perception of real time, which is at the heart of physical reality. Time separates us from the past and the future, but in MicMac, the emphasis on the here and now, as it needs to be in Zen. Right here and now is the only reality we have. And even that reality can be clouded by our assumptions about it, our pictures of it, our felt needs, our conditioning. So what is reality? What is reality? The Buddha sat and sat and sat and sat and sat, turning his awareness inward and waiting, hunkering down into the now. And from that came this profound awakening that is taught and has been taught for more than 2.5 millennia, because it can be experienced. And when it is experienced deeply enough, it is beyond comprehension in terms of its level of opening us to freedom. Freedom from our ideas, our conditioning, our assumptions, our have-to-haves, our shoulds and oughts. Allowing us within that freedom to open to the moment as it is, experience it fully, and respond appropriately, meaning with wisdom, clarity, and compassion. This is built in, and this is what we can realize through our Zen practice. And I hope and pray that each one of you does. He quotes Einstein here, and it's known that Einstein did not sit and try to figure things out, but rather that he sat and allowed his mind to be. And out of the depths arose the understanding that we now respect highly in terms of scientific truths. All the great masters of the past did the same. And so can you. And again, I want to emphasize that that's really the only route to true freedom. We have the tools. If you're listening to this Teisho, you have a connection with a teacher, a guide. And again, I say a teacher is only a person who is just a couple of steps ahead of their students, and not necessarily across the board either. We're working on ourselves, hopefully, just as all of our students are. So dive in. Here we are on the 5th day of this first of 2 in a row sesshin, this intensive training period, where we have only a few days between the sesshin. And hopefully we will keep that practice going in a serious manner in between, so that when we enter the next sesshin, we will have not lost any ground, but have had a chance to process what may have come up, and dive into the next sesshin well prepared to continue deepening, to continue opening, to continue awakening. Thank you for listening. Let's stop now and recite the 4 vows and keep on sitting.